Hey guys, this is Ryan from AMS. Let's see who we bumped into at Rockville today in Daytona Beach, Florida.
All right,
here we are at Rockville with Doug Wimbish from Living Color, soaking up the local flavor.
Yeah.
So we were talking about, obviously, you've been in the band a long time. We were talking about the Stain album, and when you came here in 93?
Yeah, I came here in 1993. Living Color, we played MTV Spring Break.
Right.
Yeah, that was kind of a gas, and it was, a lot of celebrities were there, and I just remember it was like, wow, this is kind of cool, Oh, and also one of the highlights was this. Will Calhoun's a great basketball player, right? So, we're right on the beach, hotel room. You look outside, you see a basketball court, and they have Scottie Pippen's there.
Of course.
From the Bulls. It was, back in the heyday. So Will and I are together. He's like, man, I'm going to go bum rush that court. Because Will can play ball. Will's a baller.
All right.
So we run down to the court. Meanwhile, they have their own program going on. You know what I mean? It's like sponsored by whoever, right?
But he crashes it?
Dude, did he crash it? He said, hey man, let me shoot a couple of shots. Will grabs the ball, then he plays Scottie Pippen in a game of horse.
Who won?
Will.
Get out of town. What did they get up to?
I don't know, man, but all I know is they stopped the game because they were filming it, and it was like, this isn't what the sponsors may want to see. Never aired, but it's true. It's a true story.
So it's in the can somewhere. We should watch that.
We should watch it. So Will's a great basketball player. Great hit. Lenny Kravitz is on the hit. So that was one of my first shows with first show with Living Color, if you don't mind me going back a little bit.
Go for it.
All right, here, check this out. So now I'm in London. I'm working with the Stones. I'm in the studio with the Rolling Stones doing some stuff. So I get a call from Will Calhoun. He says, hey man, Doug, I'm coming over to London to do a drum clinic, but hey, we're making a bass change. Out of fairness, would you mind coming to audition? I said, sure. So I'm like, when? Next week.
Yeah, right.
So
You're not doing anything.
All right, I'm not doing anything. So I'm doing some session work. I think I was in with Stones and Annie Lennox at that time, not to drop names, but it's just the truth. So I start to do a crash course, Living Color, learn songs real quick. And when I do stuff like that, I'll learn the hardest song first, which I thought was Time's Up at that time.
It was fast,
It's
for
fast,
sure.
right? So you have to have an
Hardcore,
attitude with that, right? So, okay. So now, when are we going to hook up? Okay, it's Halloween 1991.
All right.
Halloween 1991. So, okay, boom. So I get in the flight, go to New York. It's a friggin' hurricane coming into New York City. I'm like, this isn't a great friggin' sign at all.
It's an omen.
It's an omen. So anyway, go to the rehearsal spot the next day. And what do you want to do? What's the first song? I know the guys anyway, so what do you want to do? I said, Time's Up. Silence. Nobody said anything. I'm like, did I say something wrong? Said, no, you're the only one that came in here that was auditioning that said they wanted to do that song. Nobody else wanted to play the song.
Why?
So let's go. I don't know. That's, but we knocked it out. So then do the song. Okay, cool. Then it's like, look, we have one more show on the books, which is Hollywood Rock, which is pretty much Rock and Rio.
Right.
When? January of 1992. Cool. So you want to come and do the gig? Yeah. I wasn't offered the gig with the band yet. It was just like, I'm going to come
the
and do the
hired
hit.
gun?
Yeah, I'm the hired gun and stuff like that. Anyway, so go do the gig, and it's like, go to JFK Airport, get on the plane. I'm sitting next to Corey. It's like Varig Airlines. Next thing you know, shrimp, lobsters coming out, all this in first class. I'm like, you boys are living like this? So don't get used to it. This is new for us. Land, they already knew I was going to be coming, so it was crazy. You know what I mean? So anyway, I go to do that gig, but here's the kicker. So now I'm working with Seal at that time. I did his first record. Now, Seal, I was MDing for him and so on and so forth. So he's like, look, man, I started doing some shows with him with Trevor Horn and the whole Joe Sinclair and everything. So anyway, so now I'm like, you know what? Seal is like, I got a gig, man. I'm like, where? Hollywood Rock. It's the same festival that Living Color wanted me to do.
Perfect timing.
But the difference was Seal wanted me to MD. Seal, he was my mate. I used to hang out with Seal in London and stuff. I'm like, but I always take the first, whoever calls me first.
Right.
That's how things happen. And I'll leave you with this. They say things happen in threes. I got a call from Will, for Living Color, Seal, and Bruce Springsteen all in the same
Get
day.
out of town.
It's rock and roll.
So what do you do? How do you know who to go
Take
to?
the first call. What's going to be the best thing? You know what I mean? You got to go with your gut and go with your feeling. What's going to be the investment? Where's going to be the situation where you can actually, you invest? So I'm a quarter member of Living Color.
Right.
Anyway, after the Hollywood Rock gig, they offered me the gig, and the rest is history. I'm still here.
And that's now how many years now?
137 years.
That's a lot of years. I think in Celsius that is. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So tell me about you've been with Spector a long time.
Long time,
you could
man.
play any bass you want. What is it that does for you that maybe a P bass doesn't do, or a Rickenbacker or something like that?
Well, it's the shape of the note.
That
It's
is
the
true.
sonic.
We talked about
It's the
that.
shape of the note. We talked about that. I go back to, when did I first hear a Spector bass? Well, it was with Aaron Mills from Cameo. I'm playing with the Sugarhill Gang. We're on this tour with Parliament Funkadelic, Rick James, a bunch of bands playing these big festivals. All of a sudden, I'm out by the front of the house, and I hear this freaking bass sound, but I don't see the bass player. Next thing you know, Aaron comes out of a coffin, and he's playing an early Spector bass,
Right.
like from like the late '70s,
Sure.
kind of like. And I'm like, what that sound is great.
Right.
So anyway, Aaron and I became mates. We're on the road. He said, "Hey Doug, check this out." So that was the first time I saw and heard a Spector bass. Now fast forward, how did I get with Spector bass? Well, that's another interesting story. So now it was almost by, I happened to be in the right place at the right time. So now I get the gig. I get the, before Living Color, I was working with Mick Jagger.
Right.
So I did some auditions, ended up getting the gig with Mick, and then now I'm in the studio with Mick. And it's prior to that, I just got off the road with Jeff Beck, Simon Phillips, and Jan Hammer. So I'm in that arena.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm with the heavy hitters.
Sure.
Jeff really busted me out. So we're doing the hit, we're doing rehearsals, and we're at SIR in New York, and the word gets around, where the band's going to be rehearsing at. So now Pierre de Beaupart has a connection with the guys over at Kramer.
Right.
Back in the day.
Now, is that Keith Richards' guitar tech, or who is?
Yes, Keith's the
Got
next
it.
guitar tech,
Got
but
it.
he's a tech with me as well, with Tackhead. So now
Nice.
he's dialed in. So he's like, said he's Jeff. Kramer wants to bring some guitars for you to see. Okay, cool. So Jeff is like, okay, Doug, come with me, man. He knew what was going on. Why don't you come and hang out with me when we go to rehearsal earlier? We walk into SIR, there's 10 Kramer guitars.
Right.
Probably more, all different colors.
And this is what year?
This was in 1986.
So Kramer's like the biggest brand in the world at that point.
At that time, because
Yeah.
of Floyd Rose.
Sure, Eddie and all that, yeah.
Eddie's on top of the world.
Right.
So now we walk in, Jeff, God bless him, he's classic. So we go in, Jeff looks at me, he says, hey, this is Jeff Beck, this guy's from Kramer. So they want to show you some guitars. So Jeff looks at the guitars. Oh, that's nice. It's a nice color. Maybe picks one up. Oh, thank you. Thanks, guys. And he walks off and goes into the room and leaves the guys there. And then it was silence.
Like the air just gets sucked out of the room.
Dude.
And you were there by yourself?
I was there by myself. So now it's myself, Pierre, and the guys from Kramer. 10 seconds goes by, and then Pierre is like, well, Dougie's interested in the Spector bass. So I got hooked up by default. So then it was kind of like, okay, so, because I love the sound. I love,
Sure.
I've been like putting the Ford one at that time. So anyway, so now they're like, they had a loaner bass that they would loan. They wouldn't just give you a bass.
Right.
They had a loaner bass. So I had to wait for the loaner bass. Well, we're going to see when we can get it back. But because I'm working with Mick Jagger, like days later, not even, here comes the loaner bass.
Sure.
I use it in the studio. Everybody loves it. Why? Shape of the note. The sound is great. You're living in it. I'm working in New York City. Look, man, if I had my passive Fender jazz bass and I'm
you're
facing
humming
towards
everywhere. Yeah.
the friggin' Empire State Building, you know what I mean? You would take an alligator clip to the board, the whole nine, right? This, people loved it because it worked very well and it didn't make a lot of noise. So that's why I got Spector involved in my world.
And you never look back.
I never look back.
So when you guys are tracking stuff in the studio, it's all Spector too, or is that where it's like a playground? You can have a bunch of different basses.
Well, generally it's all Spector.
Okay.
It's been all Spector mainly, unless I'm going some old school stuff. But yeah.
All right. So let's talk about Tackhead. You were telling me a little bit of the background, the collective, the amount of recordings that you guys did. I think a lot of people, when I think of Tackhead, and I think of Sugarhill Gang, and I think a lot of hip hop, but you're saying you were doing industrial music. You were doing kind of all over the map. What was? Tell me that story again with Al Jorgensen.
Okay, so it kind of migrated. So in 1984, the original Sugarhill Rhythm Section recorded a song for Tom Silverman's label and with James Brown.
Right.
It was a song by the name of Unity. At the same time, Tom Silverman was the producer of the New Music Seminar in New York City. So at that particular time, he had a producers panel with Adrian Sherwood and Trevor Horn and some other folks come over. But to back it up a little bit, there's a gentleman by the name of Mark Stewart from Bristol, England. He was a man by the name of the Pop Group. He came to New York in 1979 and recorded some of Mr. Magic's Hip Hop Hour on cassette, brought it back to Bristol, and introduced a whole scene in England to some early hip hop.
Right.
So he was aware of the rhythm section. So he knew that Adrian was coming over to New York. He said, Adrian, you're going to go at this, you're going to be part of this producers panel. Find Skip, Keith, and Doug. It'd be great to do some work with them. And by the way, Keith had just did this song called Malcolm X No Sellout, which was a big underground kind of vibe going on.
Right.
So we meet Adrian, have a great time, hang out all night in New York style. And he's like, look, man, I'd like to get you guys to come over to England. I'm producing the next Ministry record with Al Jorgensen. Cool. So he flies Keith over first to do some drum programming, then Keith and Skip and I follow him. We go over. So now we find ourselves, after being on 14th Street in the world's cheapest street at that time, now we're like at Adrian's flat in East London. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like,
having high tea. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So now so we start to record some songs for Al at the studio called Southern Studios. And we did a couple of songs. Al was cool. Adrian had a 4-track reel-to-reel at his crib. We were just doing some demos, messing around. All tape.
Okay.
So Keith programmed some stuff. We just banging some stuff down, just 4 tracks. So Al here's what we're doing. He said, "What are you guys doing?" "Oh, we just cut some new stuff, man. Just at Adrian's crib, 4-track." He said, "Cool." We play it for him. Al is like, "I friggin' love it. Matter of fact, check this out. Keep the songs here's the real multi-track tapes of what you guys cut for me.
Right.
And the money. Give me those 4 tracks that you got."
It's a fair trade.
Reel to reel. We're like, bet.
Yeah, right.
No problem. So that became the first Tackhead record.
Okay.
Those are the first songs. What's My Mission Now? Mine at the End of the Tether, so on and so forth. Now, we had already recorded some other stuff, and we started coming up with names like Fats Comet, and at that time, Haley's Comet was coming out, and so we just take a piss. Started our own record label, World Records. So now, it's the second thing that's happening. Now we got this industrial stuff coming out. I'm like, man, this is kind of hard. It's kind of hard as nails. So I came up with the name. I just started, there was a slang that we would have that we would call like hip hop cats that would be at the gig, got no money to get in, but they'd be outside breakdancing, setting stuff up, doing their vibes outside. We call them tackheads. They always had the hoods, sharp points. You know what I mean? Kind of clannish. You know what I mean? But
hopefully the opposite of that.
Yeah, totally opposite of that. But
Good.
The look had the point. We call them tackheads.
All right.
You know what I mean? And they're like, because a tackhead will be out at the gig, rain or shine, you know what I mean? They're your hardcore supporter.
And it's sharp.
And it's sharp as a tack.
Right.
So it stuck. So we're like, you know what, Tackhead. So the name, I kind of pinned and came up with the name, and everybody said, that's kind of dope. That's how Tackhead was created. Crazy, isn't it?
It is. And to think how prevalent, I mean, all that stuff that you guys recorded, all those lines, those bass lines, I mean, have you ever heard a song and go, hey, man, that's me?
Well,
or it's a rip of what I did?
Well, here's the deal. See, now, the Sugarhill Rhythm Section, at one point, we were on more turntables than any other rhythm section on earth because we were being sampled by everybody.
Right.
And that came from some executives. So now fast forward, all the early songs we did, White Lines, The Message, New York, Eighth Wonder, Freedom, Apache, That's the
All
Joint,
classics.
Funk You Up.
Yeah.
They're all classics.
Yeah.
Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5, The Sequence, The Funky 4+1, Spoonie G, Treacherous 3, The Bean Machine, so on and so forth. They became the songs that's what people first started to hear.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So it left the boroughs, and we were the first rhythm section to bring hip hop to the world. We were the first ones to get in the plane, fly to England and Europe, and present live hip hop with the band.
Right.
Sugarhill Gang, Master G's, Wonder Mike and Guy in the rhythm section. So now fast forward, all those songs were being sampled. So you can go to Who Sampled right now.
Right.
Take one song, Apache, or The Message, or White Lines, and see how many times those songs were sampled by somebody else.
Right. And how many times you didn't get paid for it?
Well, now we do, because now,
right.
if you're clever enough, you can go there's ways and means to get paid. But anyway, for just being in these pools and things have been sampled. So now, it wasn't before, but now you can.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just thankful that we were able to be in a golden era.
Yes, and I was going to ask, were you just lucky to be there, or like how did it happen?
There, man. We knew Sylvia Robinson from 1974.
Okay.
I started working with her when I was 18 in 1974. Sylvia comes from a whole history, Mickey and Sylvia,
Oh,
but
yeah.
Joe and Sylvia Robinson started their own record label, All Platinum Records, and it migrated into Sugarhill Records. And Sylvia had a duo, Mickey Baker, who made all those great jazz guitar books.
Right.
Mickey Baker moved to France. It was Mickey and Sylvia. They had a song called Love is Strange, and that was the most played record in America until the Beatles came over.
That's right. I think it was in Dirty Dancing too, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Sylvia lived right next door to the Isley Brothers, and Jimi Hendrix was living at their house. And he would come over to Sylvia's house. They're right next door. Sylvia, if you go online right now, you'll see Sylvia Robinson and Mickey Baker. Sylvia has a white Stratocaster.
Okay.
And Jimmy would come over and put the guitar next to the windowsill of the head of the guitar so he could play it. And he'd say, hey, Sylvia, I just hope one day I can have a guitar like this. It's true.
I believe it.
It's true.
No,
so
it's a good Jimmy, by the way.
So there's a whole collective of folk that I was blessed to be around at a very early age. My elders, folks that trained me up, gave me I'm not the architect. I'm the recipient of some guys that paved the road, did the Chipley
I think you're being a little humble. I mean, you
know what I mean?
You definitely put some bricks in that road.
Well, I did, you know what I mean? But I did it with, I was the one that was mixing the cement as well. I was a laborer. I wasn't sitting there going like, yeah, put that brick over there. We worked hard, man.
Sure.
We did a lot of hard work, but it paid off. So now that rhythm section has been able to develop a sound. And Keith LeBlanc with us, we're one of the first bands to do samples with Tackhead, period.
Okay.
We were doing samples with AMS outboard gear.
Okay.
We sample stuff. We were one of the first bands to do samples live on stage. Period.
You ever have any of that stuff just go wrong on you? Like
Of
just
course.
yeah.
You go to one city to have a sampler, and by the time the power got a little bit weaker, and after 6 o'clock at night, it wouldn't turn on.
Mm-hmm. You're like, but at least we could still play live.
But we had the likes of Al Jorgensen that had our ears. Trent Reznor used to come and try to be in the next studio next to us, just seeing what we were doing.
Right.
Keith produced the first Pretty Hate Machine on Steve Gottlieb's TVT record. Okay. I could go on and on and on and on and on to the break of dawn from what we were able to accomplish by being a band. We never let ourselves get split. We always came back to Mother Earth. You kept it real. We didn't just go for all the money or all the blow or all the women. All that was there.
Of
you know what I
course,
mean?
you couldn't
but
get
you
away
have to
from it,
understand how to manage whatever things happen. We were bonded by a family and love.
Right.
And we spent 45 years. Keith just died. I just celebrated him 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So to this day, I'm thankful for what Joe and Sylvia gave us, all the rappers, all that I've learned to be in. Look, man, when you go to London, hey, bro, I lived there for 30 years. You learn the English language, the art of manipulation of the English language. You can meet an English person, it's almost like, man, within 10 seconds, they take
the
control.
same words.
They take, hello, mate, you all right, mate? Everything cool?
You're like, what?
All right,
Yeah, sure.
Ryan, you slag. But they have a way of managing the words, and it's almost like, do I owe you money? You know what I mean? It's like, did you just talk me out of something? But you learn the art of business, and you learn it from the English style because, they got it down to a science. The English know management. So anyway, all that being said and done, Tackhead, Sugarhill, all the records that I did with all the great producers, working with Trevor Horn, with many different folk. I'm just thankful that the Spector Bass was the one that I used that ushered me in to whether I'm doing Depeche Mode, Useless. You'll hear it on Annie Lennox record, on her first Diva record. You hear it on Madonna, on Erotica.
She sold a few records, yeah.
Sold a few records. So I was fortunate to not stay in the same lane. I always did things that made me uncomfortable.
But
I had to find a way to be comfortable.
And I think that's a big part of it, because you think about how long you've been doing this. You don't have to be doing it. You do it because you love it. But at the same time, as good of a player as you might be, the road is littered with guys who are good players, but they're unreliable or they're difficult. Is a big part of where you are today because of how amenable you are to just going, look, this is a situation, I'll come in and I'll make it work?
Well, yeah, you got, look, Brian, we're having a conversation.
Right.
That's 99% of the gig right there. When you meet somebody, you can come in with all your chops, but a person is like, you know what, I can go, if we can make a record now, that's cool. Maybe I want to go on the road with you, but can I survive 22 hours with you?
Right.
Outside
Probably
of being
not.
on stage. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
And what do you bring to the table? What are you taking away? Where's your ego? Can you park your ego? Can you get the job done?
Right.
It's an art. But it's not an art because it kind of comes from your heart. So if you learn how to communicate when not to say anything, sit back and just sit in the slice or be on the front burner and be real.
Right.
You know, don't brown nose anybody. You know, sometimes
take the criticism if you have to.
man, better be hot or cold than lukewarm because that ain't gonna taste good in my mouth. Be real with people, but also keep a reality in check. You know what I mean? Oh, this is what the job is at hand. All right, but you got to have a conversation with people.
Right.
And once you embracing that, you're good.
But then on stage, that's where your ego could come out, and you gotta like, well, now I'm ready to throw down.
It always comes out. Well, I'm a bass player.
Right.
So I sit back and I can make something go from a major to a minor with one note.
Yes, you can.
That's easy. You know what I mean? I want to upset the singer, no problem. I got you, mate. But the thing is, it's like you learn the responsibility.
Right.
You go on stage, you got to be responsible for what you're doing.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, be on time.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure what you bring to the table is real. And also, I'm a bass player, so I got to get along with I get the phone call after the rehearsal. Man, what was going on with the guitar player, man? You know, I'm like Switzerland.
It's always the guitar player.
It's always guitar players take the hit, but the guitar players are the ones that that are almost second to the lead singer, even though they're writing all the songs and stuff.
Yeah, well.
So you got to deal with the reality and the egos. And I think over time, I've learned that by being in situations that were extremely uncomfortable.
I can only imagine, and I can imagine you could fill a book.
Extremely, but to make them comfortable. That's it.
Fair enough. I feel like our time is up, not to quote the song.
And what do you have to say? And just remember, all of this, you're going to have to slow the tape down if you want to hear it.
We're going to get it all in there.
Get it all in it. Look, I'm just glad to be here, man. I'm glad to be with you guys. Spector in the area, man. Thanks, Ryan!
Thank you.
Brother. Thank you, brother.
Thank you. Out. Thanks for tuning in. For more content like this, be sure to check us out at AmericanMusical.com.